Today's podcast is brought to you by a company who we have been using for years and takes up significant shelf space inside of our own kitchen. Biosteel Sports Nutrition.
It was a product created out of necessity 8 years ago and is trusted by athletes like Connor McDavid, Tyler Seguin, Brooke Henderson, Rosie MacLennan, and Andrew Wiggins.
They're really a leader in sports drinks for everyone from professional athletes to everyday champions.
Understand something, guys. Nothing worth ever having in this world comes easy.
Do what these champions doing if you're going to be a champion.
You control your outcome.
Who am I?
I'm a champion.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Biosteel Breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Adrian, with my co-host,
Sylvie.
And we're back. It's Friday. We're breaking down a brand new topic from health, wellness, nutrition, mindset, whatever you want to know. We got you. Right?
Yes.
So this week's topic is a little bit different. Over the last few weeks, we've been looking at nutrition and training, and we wanted to switch it up a little bit. So
this is a topic that, in working with athletes, we see a lot of, but not a lot of, strategies or talk about, how to overcome it.
I would agree 100%.
And so we are talking, what are we talking about, eh?
We're talking about overcoming nervousness and performance anxiety. So every Monday, if you don't know, we drop a Mindset Monday, and it's a short 1-minute clip on how you can help improve your mindset for the week. But we wanted to take some time in this week to expand out on one of those topics that we've discussed, and that is nervousness, performance anxiety, and help you overcome it. And it's something that I've spent a lot of time working on, and I don't know if I'll ever feel as if I've completely accomplished it, I guess, or as if I have a really firm grasp. I think it's fluid and dynamic, and it's always changing, and you're always dealing with new stressors and new anxieties. So as the stakes go up, so can your emotions that accompany that, and it's something that you always have to work on. But we spent a lot of time working on it, and now we want to share it with you guys. That's fair, right? Should I just keep rolling here?
Yeah. So let's talk about performance anxiety and what is it? And then also, whether it just pertains to sports or if you can have performance anxiety with other areas of your life.
Yeah, performance anxiety, when we use that term, we're referring to some sort of event, it can really be anything that you're going to go do, anything you're being involved with that's going to require you to put some of yourself out there in some capacity. So it could be a meeting, it could be meeting someone's parents, it could be a sporting event, it could be really anything that requires you to be vulnerable and expose yourself to some sort of criticism or judgment. And so when we're talking about performance anxiety, in no way are we talking about anxiety. I think those are two completely separate things. And, well, not completely separate, but they're not, just because you have performance anxiety does not mean you suffer from anxiety on the whole. And I think that there's stuff going on in that second field that I don't feel qualified to speak on because it's not necessarily related to an event or some sort of clearly definable action. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to get that out of the way up front and say that I'm not necessarily commenting on anxiety on the whole or any sort of anxiety disorders, but I do think that there's things that are available in the performance sector that could probably help on the other side. And I would love to, speak with someone about that who has maybe a little bit more insight. So that's what we're talking about. Okay,
so what are the steps to overcome performance anxiety? Or if we don't overcome it, how do we deal with it in a way that we can turn it into something positive?
Right. How do we manage it?
Yeah.
I don't think you ever, like you said, overcome performance anxiety. I think it's something that's always there and always present, and we're just trying to manage it and just trying to harness it in a way that is beneficial. So over the last couple of years, it's something that we've been thinking a lot about in this house, especially myself personally with fighting. And now I have it down to, I guess, a 3 pronged approach with several offshoots from each of those. So there's 3 different steps to it. There's acknowledgement, appreciation, and then override. And those are acknowledgement and appreciation we see everywhere. The term override, I guess you could change that, but that's what I've chosen to use as the third term. So acknowledgement is admitting that you have those feelings and understanding that they're okay. So for example, you're going out to do this big meeting. You're going to present to your company and you've never done this before. And you realize that, oh my gosh, I am really anxious about this. Be upfront about it. Acknowledge that they're there. Trying to suppress it is the worst thing that you can do, because if you try not to focus on something, you automatically focus on it. Have you ever been on a car trip, on a long road trip, and you have to pee, and you're like, don't think about having to pee. And then the only thing you can think about is how bad you have to go to the bathroom. And then you're dying to get to a rest stop. So it's the same type of thing. If you try to avoid thinking about it, you'll become fixated on it and you'll never be able to move past that. So first step before you do anything, admit that you're nervous. And whether you're just admitting it to yourself or it can be to someone else. And I think that both those things are beneficial. So I've been backstage in a fight and my corner said, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm really nervous right now." And that's okay. We can admit that, and there's no weakness that comes with that. It's just important to understand that acknowledging is the first step. The second step is to appreciate those feelings that you're having. It's good that you feel nervous. It means that you care. And if you care about something, it means that you've committed to something. And committing to something is the only way that you can get good at something and have this satisfaction of achieving a goal. If we just flit from one thing to the next, and we never commit and we never care, then we're never going to have that deep sense of satisfaction that comes with accomplishing something.
Right.
Going from one small hill to the next without ever actually accomplishing anything, just jumping from spot to spot to spot, like base camp to base camp to base camp, is not the same. You don't get that sense of accomplishment. You don't get that sense of commitment and that sense of caring. And as a result, you don't get nervous. And so it means that that you're not really invested. So I think it's important to appreciate that nervousness and those emotions are the result of being committed and being invested and knowing that you're there. And then the second part about that is understanding that your body and your mind appreciate the gravity of the situation, so that they know that something is going on. They know that you have a big moment. And as a result, they're ready to support you in that big moment by triggering an entire range of emotional processes, an entire range of fight or flight responses that can be beneficial if harnessed correctly. So for example, prior to walking out to fight, I'm nervous because my body knows something's about to go on and it knows that it needs to go to work, and it's ready to go to work because it's there with me. And if you don't feel those emotions, then you're going to have a really tough time when you get in there, whatever that is. So if you're nervous before the meeting, that's good. Your body knows that it's important and it's ready to go for you. So I think that's the second part that's really important. So we have acknowledgement, we have appreciation, and then lastly, the third part of that is override. And that's where you override those emotions that are threatening to overtake your comm center, whatever you want to call it. They're threatening to overtake the moment, if that makes sense. Being anxious, having nerves is important, but only if it can be managed, only if it can be harnessed, only if it can be kept in check at a level that is valuable. And if it starts to get out of control, that's when you have bad performances, and that's when you shut down. So we all know the story, or maybe we have been a part of a moment where we couldn't perform. Maybe we walked out on stage to public speak and we said nothing when we were there because we were too nervous, because we couldn't handle the anxiety. And so I think it's important that we have strategies to deal with it. So that's the override section. So the first piece behind that is preparation. If you're prepared for a moment, you're ready to go, and then you can manage those nerves. But if you haven't spent time and invested yourself and prepared, then of course you're going to feel overwhelmed, and you deserve to feel those feelings because you didn't do the back end work. There's a Ben Franklin quote, I believe, and it says that an ounce of preparation is worth a pound of cure. What you do on the front end matters more than what you do on the back end. Muhammad Ali talks about the fight as won and lost far away from the bright lights, and that's so true. So if you take care of your stuff, if you do your research before you go into the meeting, if you've practiced before you went to that big game, then you're going to be okay, and you're going to feel a lot more confident in your ability to handle the situation. So that's the first part. You need to be prepared. The second part is that you need to breathe. And we talk about this a lot with our nervous system, and there's a big difference between fight or flight or rest and digest. And so we need to find a balance between those two things. And breathing has this amazing ability to manipulate our parasympathetic nervous system. And so we use tempo breathing. So 4, 4, 4, 4, where we inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold for 4 seconds. And that's the routine that I'll use. And I'll go through that 3 or 4 times. And that breathing helps to bring everything back under control. It triggers our vagus nerve, and it triggers our parasympathetic nervous system. And also I have to fixate on that if I'm going to accomplish it. And I can't think about the other stuff that's stressing me out at the moment, because otherwise I won't be able to accomplish that task. So that's the second piece. And then the last thing is to reframe. With that nervousness usually comes some self-doubt or some negative thoughts. I'm not good enough to do this. And so you want to take that immediately, cut it as fast as you can. As soon as you hear yourself saying, I'm not good enough, you want to stop yourself inside in your own internal dialogue. And you want to say, yes, of course you are. I can do this. I can handle it. I'm prepared. I know what I'm doing. I'm ready to go. And the faster you do that and the more convincing you are to yourself in the way that you say it, the better you're going to do. And that's not something that happens right away. It takes time. It's not a day 1 or a day 2 or a day 3 thing. It might be a day 97 thing, where you've done this every day over and over and over and over. Every time your body said, no, I suck, I can't do that, you've said, no, of course I can. Every single time you reframe it and you put it back out there, even if it's just internally in a way that's positive, in a way that's beneficial. And if you do that, you're unstoppable, because now you can go out and perform. And even if you don't win, or even if you don't execute, it's not because you didn't perform, and that's completely different. And so I'm fired up today. I'm excited. So those are the big 3. We're talking about performance anxiety today, and those are the big 3. We need to acknowledge it, appreciate it, and then we need to override it. And inside that override section is prep, breathing, and then reframing.
I love it.
That's it.
Perfect.
So guys, we hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, please like, subscribe down below, and head over to Biosteel. Check out some of the products that they have to offer. They care about performance. They care about optimizing, and use the code word
Champ Lifestyle, capital C, capital L.
You can get 15% off everything they have. And I just hope you guys crush it, whatever it is you're doing. We hope that you get after it and you get the results that you want, because you're prepared.